Filthy Rich Vampire Book 1 by Geneva Lee. Filthy Rich Vampire begins not in blood, but in music. Thea is a cellist, brilliant but struggling, playing her instrument in the shadows of the elite. She doesn't belong in the glittering halls of the Rousseaux estate, where vampires in designer suits sip from goblets that carry more than wine. She's only there to perform. But fate, twisted and precise, has other plans. During the performance, Thea stumbles into something she was never meant to see, a private moment, vicious and beautiful, where vampires feed. Panic surges, her heart races, and before she can flee, she finds herself in the arms of Julian Rousseaux, heir to a powerful vampire dynasty and recently awakened from a long sleep to fulfill an ancient tradition, the rites. Julian is cold, unreadable, but strangely protective. Where others might silence her, he offers a bargain. He needs a fake fiancée to pacify his family and sidestep the matchmaking politics of the vampire world. She needs money, desperately, to care for her ailing mother. The arrangement is simple: 1 year together, appearances maintained. No real strings. But in a world where nothing is as it seems, that line quickly begins to blur. Julian, trained to wield charm and cruelty in equal measure, finds himself caught off guard by Thea's fire and fragility. She isn't like the vampires he's grown up with, cold, calculating, and ruled by tradition. And Thea, drawn into a dangerous world of immortal politics and blood-soaked etiquette, starts to see beyond Julian's hardened shell. Their performance as a couple becomes more than play. The late-night glances turn lingering. The touches stop being rehearsed. Yet with every step deeper into the world of the rites, Thea becomes more exposed. She's a human in a realm where humans are either tools or prey. Julian's family, powerful, manipulative, ancient, do not accept her. Whispers circle. Threats tighten. And Julian himself? He has secrets buried beneath centuries of duty. Protecting Thea may come at a cost he swore never to pay again. As the year draws to a close, both must face the truth: this arrangement was never just pretend. But in the vampire world, love is not just forbidden, it's a weapon. And Thea may not survive long enough to see how deep Julian's feelings truly run. Filthy Rich Vampires Book 2, Second Rite by Geneva Lee. A month has passed since Thea's world was shaken by vampire secrets, and the aftermath leaves her broken. Back in her old life, she faces heartache and sacrifice. Her beloved mother lies comatose, designer gowns are sold to cover medical bills, and even her roommates treat her like delicate glass. Then, in the hushed corridors of a hospital, she encounters Julian Rousseaux, the vampire who haunted her nightmares and her desires. But when he appears, it isn't by chance. It's crisis. Julian, bound by ancient vampire law, pushed Thea away to protect her. Now, threatened by forces intent on tearing them apart, and warned by vampire parliament to stay away, he faces a choice: obey tradition, or fight for her. He chooses war. The reunion ignites a wildfire of emotion. Julian battles to keep her close, offering protection, clarity, and devotion he once withheld. But Thea isn't waiting for rescue. She's determined to claim her own agency, to stand beside him rather than in his shadow. Together, they confront shocking revelations: Julian's centuries of secrets, Thea's fragile position between mortal life and immortal politics, and the threatening grip of the council. Danger stalks them at every turn: ancient enemies, forbidden bloodlines, and tests of loyalty. Julian must decide if he'll claim Thea as his mated partner, breaking vampire code, or watch her slip away forever. By the final pages, their bond carries both hope and fracture. They stand together, stronger, vulnerable, and utterly visible to a world determined to destroy them. The question remains: can their love survive when the whispers become weapons, and the council's knives carve deeper than any fang? Filthy Rich Vampires Book 3, Three Queens by Geneva Lee. As the winter solstice approaches, Thea Melbourne and Julian Rousseaux return to the vampire elite's glittering world, united and stronger than ever. Their bond, once fragile, now pulses with purpose. But beneath the veneer of luxury and celebration lie threats that seek to tear them apart. A piece of cryptic information surfaces, sending Thea racing through Venice's ancient canals. It's a journey laced with urgency, for the news concerns her lineage, and it rattles the very core of her identity. Julian follows, haunted by ghosts of his past tied to the same city. Venice becomes a stage where love collides with legacy, memory intertwines with fear. In the city's shadowed alleys, forgotten magic begins to stir within Thea, a power she never knew she possessed. It speaks of ancient bloodlines, of a destiny whispered for centuries, and of a threat that darkens the horizon for vampires and witches alike. Julian, facing his own internal demons, must confront the monster he once was, the bloodthirsty, ruthless predator he fought to leave behind. But remnants of that past still linger, testing his loyalty, testing his love, testing their future. Meanwhile, alliances fracture. The council watches, families conspire, and darker forces gather. With every step, Thea and Julian realize the stakes are no longer personal, they are global. Magic may die, but the consequences of its fall could shatter the world they've tried to build. As the final act unfolds, danger converges on them, ancient threats, hidden betrayals, and a climax drenched in sacrifice. Their love, however powerful, may not be enough to shield them from a fate that demands everything. When the dust settles, only one question remains: can love withstand a world teetering on the edge of war and oblivion, or will they pay the ultimate price? Filthy Rich Vampires Book 4, For Eternity by Geneva Lee. As the mantle of Queen settles on Thea Melbourne, she stands beside Julian Rousseaux, her immortal lord. In a world that suddenly seems both theirs, and yet, painfully fragile. The lavish celebrations and winter solstice glow mask a brewing tempest, old alliances fracture, ecclesiastical factions plot, and a deadly game of power unfolds around them. Their ascent is not unchallenged. The Vampire Council, the militant Mordecai, Julian's influential family, and other ancient houses, all vie for the throne's favor. When the previous queen is found dead, Thea realizes the seat she occupies makes her the prime target. Every move becomes a calculated risk. Magic, once dormant, surges back into the world, and into Thea herself. Strange energies curl around her fingertips, symbols from ancient covenants flicker beneath her skin. With danger closing in, her burgeoning powers could tip the scales, or doom them all. Julian, ever her protector, balances centuries of loyalty against his mortal love. To defend Thea, he risks irrevocable conflict, with enemies seen and unseen, and with those once thought allies. Each confrontation peels back another layer of betrayal. By the end, with bodies fallen, secrets exposed, and magic unleashed, Thea and Julian are tested as rulers, and as lovers. Their bond must survive final betrayals and supernatural upheavals, for the fate of their kingdom, and perhaps the entire vampire world, hangs in the balance. Will their unity be enough to survive the crown's deadly weight? Or will their love become the catalyst for ruin? Thea Melbourne never wanted a crown, and certainly not the weight of an empire soaked in centuries of blood. But fate made its move, and now she sits beside Julian Rousseaux as queen to the vampires. The crown is not a symbol of safety, it is a curse woven in politics, ancient power, and deadly expectations. Her ascent comes at a price. The death of the former queen is suspicious, and Thea becomes the scapegoat for enemies both old and new. Whispers of rebellion grow louder. The Mordecai, fanatics obsessed with purity and control, see her blood, half witch, half vampire, as an abomination, a threat to their carefully maintained order. And worse still, the Vampire Council is fracturing, with houses plotting from the shadows, their daggers hidden behind false smiles. But as power converges on her from every side, Thea carries a secret of her own. She is pregnant. A child of magic and immortal blood grows inside her. Something unheard of, something sacred, or sacrilegious, depending on who's watching. Thea tries to keep the truth hidden, knowing that if the wrong hands get wind of it, her unborn child could become a pawn, or a weapon. Julian, ever her equal in strength and strategy, remains steadfast. But he, too, is haunted by what he's done, by what he's had to become, and by the terrifying possibility that his love for Thea might not be enough to keep her safe. As tensions mount, they travel to Venice, a city drowned in secrets, to uncover the truth behind a magical prophecy in the dying lineage of vampire queens. There, they encounter an ancient temple, long buried, that may hold the key to both Thea's power and the child she carries. But their enemies move faster. Tragedy strikes. Julian is killed, a betrayal too cruel, too sudden. Thea is left shattered, broken beneath the weight of her grief. The vampire world begins to fall apart. War looms. The council splinters. The mordicum sharpens its blades. And in the heart of all this, Thea must decide who she becomes without Julian. But love, like magic, does not always obey the rules of the living. Through ancient ritual and the last flickers of sacred magic, Julian is resurrected, reborn through the sacrifice of others, returned not quite the same, but still hers. Thea clings to him, to what they fought for, to the fragile hope that they might still build a future free of violence and bloodshed. But hope, too, demands sacrifice. Thea understands at last that her power, her bloodline, and her very soul were never meant to rule over others, but to restore balance. Magic has grown stagnant under vampire rule. The land suffers. The old ways must die for something new to be born. So Thea makes the most painful choice of all. She returns the grounds, so that magic can be reborn, free from the chains of monarchy and politics. Her child will not inherit a crown, they will inherit freedom. Julian stands by her, not as king, but as partner, as lover, as the man who walked through death to return to her. Together, they leave behind the palace, the courts, and the suffocating expectations. They choose each other, and the uncertain path ahead, not for power, but for peace. In the end, it's not a story of thrones or crowns. It's the story of love surviving death, of legacy born from sacrifice, and of a queen who chose not to rule, but to change the world.